So, welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome back to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover that day's newspaper in a very short span of time within 20 minutes. Now, I would sincerely like to apologize because I couldn't upload yesterday's current affairs yesterday itself. Okay, so today we'll be covering August 12th, that was yesterday's newspaper. Okay, because I want to cover your backlog, and I sincerely apologize for the disruption in your routine, but let's make up for that. So now we'll be in this lecture we'll be covering the current affairs, important news items from August newspaper. Okay. By the way, today's newspaper will be covered today itself, so don't worry about that too. Okay. Now the important news items that featured in today's newspaper are as following. These are today's topics. Number one, Clean Plant Program launched by Government of India, Ministry of Agriculture to be precise. So this plant program was launched to boost the horticultural sector in India. So we'll talk about this. Then, recently, Japanese government has issued an advisory that Japan is going to face a mega earthquake or a megaquake. So, what are megaquakes? Why would Japan face a megaquake? We'll talk about this issue. Then, recently, Drug Controller General of India has said that certain types of medicines do not require local clinical trials to be manufactured. So they don't need a local clinical trial to get the manufacturing or marketing license or approval. So we'll talk about this issue as well. Then recently, DGP of J&K Police said that village defense guards in the Jammu region will be provided with latest night vision goggles and equipment so that they can defend India's territories against terrorist infiltration. So who are these village defense guards? What is the scheme? We'll talk about this. And in the end, we'll talk about the recent release of 109 climate resilient crop varieties by Prime Minister Modi. So we'll talk about all these 5 issues. So without further delay, let's start with topic number 1, which is Clean Plant Program. Okay. So let's talk about what was in the news first. So recently, Union Cabinet cleared Clean Plant Program. Now, this plant program is aimed at improving the yield and productivity of horticultural crops in India. Now, what are horticultural crops? Basically, the crops that lead to the production of fruits, vegetables, aromatic flowers, and other crops. Okay, so these are categorized as horticultural crops. And government feels that it is time for Indian farmers to shift to these crops because these are high value crops. They sell for quite a good price, and Indian farmers would be able to increase their incomes if they shift towards horticultural sector. But for horticultural sector to get a good boost, these farmers should be provided with good quality plants so that these plants can be grown properly and they give a good yield. Okay, so to provide farmers with good quality seeds and good quality plants so that they are able to grow high quality, high yield fruits and vegetables, government launched this program. Now, the total budget of this program is 1,765 crore rupees. Half of this amount will come from the budget of Mission for Integrated Development of Horticulture. So already a few years back, government launched a mission for horticultural sector. Half of the money would come from this mission, and half of the money would come in the form of a loan from Asian Development Bank. All right. Now, what is this CPP program, Clean Plant Program? So basically, farmers provided with clean, good quality plants so that the farmers can grow these plants in their nurseries and produce good quality fruits and vegetables and sell in the market, even export them. Now, 3 things would be done under this program. First, 9 clean plant centers would be established in different cities. So in Pune, in Bengaluru, in Nagpur, in Bikaner, in Srinagar, in Mukteshwar, in Solapur, somewhere in East India, and in Lucknow. These 9 clean plant centers would sometimes import, sometimes develop in India itself good quality plants. Check them for diseases, then create mother plants, and these mother plants would be sent to nurseries all over India where these will be multiplied. So one apple plant, let's suppose, good quality apple plant will be multiplied in nurseries. So 1,000, 10,000 apple plants would be created from that one mother plant, and then it would be sold to farmers. Okay. Infrastructure would also be built so that these nurseries have good quality infrastructure. India will develop good quality nurseries all over the country so that these new daughter plants are created. Plus, a proper regulatory and certification process would also be created so that only certified plants and certified fruits and vegetables are sold to the people and exported. Okay, so this is the entire thing or the entire system of Clean Plant Program. Remember, it will be launched by Ministry of Agriculture. It has already been launched by Ministry of Agriculture. So remember the ministry's name as well. Okay. Now, why did the government feel the need to launch this program? There were two reasons behind the launch of this program. First of all, there is high demand for new types of fruits and vegetables, especially foreign exotic fruits and vegetables like avocados, blueberries, foreign apples. And India does not want to be import dependent on these plants. India wants that these plants or these fruits and vegetables are produced in India only. For that, India needs to import plants because India doesn't naturally grow avocados. India imports avocados. But if India wants to produce avocados in India, then India needs to import the plants that produce avocados. So there is high demand for these new fruits and vegetables, and that is why farmers, horticultural farmers in India are importing these plants. Okay? But the import process is quite tedious and cumbersome. In fact, if a farmer imports a foreign avocado plant, he has to keep that in quarantine for 2 years because government is scared of some diseases that might come, some plant diseases that might come along with these plants, imported plants. So it needs to be quarantined for 2 years and then only it can be released in fields. But with CPP, clean plant centers will be created and the process of 2 years or the time of 2 years would be shortened to 6 months. And thus, easy and affordable availability of these plants would be made to farmers. Okay, so if this program is successful, then India's horticultural sector would get the much necessary boost. All right. Okay. Now let's jump to next news item, which is Megaquake in Japan. So what is the news? Look, recently on August 8th, Japan faced an earthquake which was of the magnitude of 7.1. Now, what is this magnitude thing? Look, the intensity of earthquakes is measured on a Richter scale. Okay, Richter scale is basically a number between 0 to 10. Okay, if the earthquake has a number of 6, then it's a strong earthquake. If it is 7, then it is a stronger earthquake. So basically, from 0 to 10, a number is given to an earthquake, and higher the number, higher the intensity of that earthquake, magnitude of that earthquake. Okay. Now, recently, Japan faced a 7.1 magnitude earthquake, which is quite high. And Japan feels that now all Japanese should brace themselves for a even stronger earthquake, which will be of a magnitude greater than 8. And any earthquake whose magnitude on Richter scale is greater than 8 is called a mega earthquake or a megaquake. So Japanese government has issued an advisory and it says that a mega earthquake is around the corner. So brace yourselves. Okay. Now these earthquakes, where are these earthquakes emerging? Okay, let's talk about this. Though the entire continent of Japan, entire island nation of Japan faces earthquakes. And why does Japan faces so many earthquakes? Because Japan actually lies at the cusp of, or it actually lies along the boundaries of various tectonic plates. Okay. Now this red line, as you can see in this picture, this is known as Nankai Trough. Now what is this Nankai Trough? This is the line which marks the border between Eurasian tectonic plate and Philippines tectonic plate. So basically Eurasian plate from here and Philippines plate from here collide. And Philippines plate actually subducts under Eurasian plate. Now, as this is happening, sometimes some faults or some cracks happen and they actually lead to earthquakes. Okay. Now, this area is known as Nankai Trough, and this trough is known to produce earthquakes every 100 to 150 years. And the special thing about earthquakes emerging from this Nankai Trough is that earthquakes occur in pairs. Okay. Now, the recent 7.1 magnitude earthquake was released from Nankai Trough, and because Nankai Trough earthquakes occur in pairs, that is why Japanese government is saying that the next earthquake might happen anytime soon. Okay, because one earthquake is done, the other earthquake will definitely come because Nankai Trough earthquakes come in pairs. The last time Nankai Trough earthquakes came, these twin earthquakes came, it was in 1944 and 46. And Japanese government says that this time the second earthquake will be a megaquake. Okay, so please remember what this Nankai Trough is. Please remember that Japan is always, it's prone to earthquakes, and earthquakes trigger tsunamis in sea. So that is why Japan is prone to tsunamis and earthquakes. This time the earthquake will be coming from Nankai Trough. Alright, that's about it. Now let's jump to third news item, which is no need for local clinical trials. Now look, all medicines in India, all medical equipment in India cannot be marketed or manufactured in India without the approval of CDSCO. Now, CDSCO stands for Central Drug Standard Control Organization. Now, it is this organization that approves all medicines that can be used in India, whether imported or manufactured in India. And if you want to get a manufacturing license or a marketing license, you have to knock the doors of CDSO's office. Now, CDSO comes under Ministry of Health. Its headquarters are in New Delhi. And CDSO is headed by a Drug Controller General of India. Okay. Now, recently, Drug Controller General of India has said that some types of medicines, certain medicines, very important medicines, won't be requiring local clinical trials for getting marketing approval and manufacturing approval. Now, these are medicines for rare diseases, some gene therapy, some drugs needed for pandemic, and some drugs needed for armed forces. Only these types of medicines are exempt from conducting local clinical trials. Now, what are local clinical trials? Look, there are certain medicines that are approved in USA and they are being used in USA. But if you want to bring these medicines into India and if you want to manufacture and sell these medicines in India, then CDSO says that you have to conduct clinical trials in India as well. Though clinical trials have been conducted in USA and that is why USA has given an approval. But you have to again conduct clinical trials in India if you want to sell these medicines in India. These clinical trials are known as local clinical trials. Now, this process takes a lot of time. That is why certain drugs in USA take a lot of time to come to India because they have to conduct local clinical trials in India. But there are certain medicines that DCGI says needs to be made available fast. That is why DCGI says that these medicines are exempt from conducting local clinical trials. Okay? But there are two conditions that they need to fulfill. One, these drugs should have already gotten approval from either USA, UK, Japan, Australia, Canada, or European Union. No other country. Only these countries are allowed. Okay. The other condition is that these drugs or these medicines have to prove that they have a competitive or a therapeutic advantage over other medicines. Okay. It has to prove that this medicine is better than other medicines available in India. If these two conditions, not and or either of these two conditions are fulfilled, then only you are exempt from local clinical trials. Okay. Now, what would be the benefits of this exemption? There are three benefits, basically two. First of all, local clinical trials are costly. And if Indian manufacturers have to conduct local clinical trials, the final price of these medicines then increases because manufacturers have to incur this cost. But now they don't have to conduct local clinical trials, so there will be reduction in cost and these drugs would be made more affordable. Okay. Plus, now they'll be easily available also. Plus, if some people are concerned that local clinical trials won't be conducted for these medicines, that is dangerous. If some people feel that it is dangerous, then DCGI says that it still has the discretionary power. If it feels that some medicines require clinical trials, it will ask those companies to do so. Okay, so the power still lies with the DCGI. There is no approval for these medicines. Okay, that's about it. Now let's move on to village defense guards. Now, who are village defense guards? These are basically civilians who are trained by security forces. They are given weapons, they are given training. Okay, civilians are given weapons and training so that they can fight against terrorists because security forces can't be everywhere. So, in disturbed areas like the Jammu region, the Kashmir Valley, in disturbed areas, civilians are trained to fight against terrorist infiltration attempts. Now, village defense guards already exist in the region of Jammu and Kashmir, and Jammu region is on the boil. A lot of terrorists have already infiltrated, and there are so many terrorist attacks going on in Jammu region. So, Jammu Kashmir Police's DGP, R.R. Swain, said that village defense guards would be provided with latest equipment and weapons. They'll be even provided with night vision goggles, all right? And their incentives would also be improved and increased. They'll be rewarded suitably. Plus, some new rules, standard operating procedures would be created so that these village defense guards work in close coordination with BSF because the main aim is to stop terrorist infiltration from international border in Pakistan. Okay. Now, what is this village defense guard scheme? You need to be aware of this. Okay. So, it was started in 1990s. Basically, majorly 1995, but we'll broadly say 1990s in the Jammu and Kashmir region by the Home Ministry. Okay, Again, the purpose is to train local residents. Now, back then, when it was launched, it was known as Village Defense Committees, but now it is known as Village Defense Guards. The latest Village Defense Guard scheme was launched in 2022. Okay. Now, all village defense guards work under SP or SSP of police in that particular district. Okay, and that's about it. That's all you need to know about village defense guards. All right, now we'll move on to our last news item, which is 109 climate resilient crop varieties released. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Sunday released 109 high yielding, climate resilient, and biofortified varieties of crops at an event by Indian Agricultural Research Institute. Now, why are we releasing climate resilient crops? Because climate change is a reality. And in future, climate change induced natural disasters, natural hazards would come. So our crops should be prepared, or our crops should be made in such a way that they resist these natural hazards like flooding, like droughts and all that. That is why we need to create new crop varieties that can resist climate change. Okay. Now these 109 varieties were created for these 61 crops. 34 field crops, 27 horticultural crops. Horticulture is important. I've mentioned that before. Government is focusing a lot on horticulture. Now it will reduce farm expenditure, farmers' cost, and have a positive impact on the environment. And in the same event conducted by Indian Agricultural Research Institute, Prime Minister also laid emphasis on the efforts of Krishi Vigyan Kendra. Now, what are these Krishi Vigyan Kendras? Okay, so basically, Krishi Vigyan Kendra act as a bridge between labs, research labs where new innovative agricultural technologies are created, and farms. So these new innovative technologies are tested in the fields, are demonstrated to farmers in the field so that they can use it themselves, and it is done by KVKs. Okay, their mandate is technology demonstration to farmers so that farmers know how to use this new technology assessment and all that stuff. The entire KVK scheme is financed by Government of India. So state governments are not asked for any money, only central government funds it. And the first KVK was established in 1974. Okay, that's about it. And with that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I hope it added some value to your preparation. Though it'll add more value if you're regular and consistent with the lecture series. All right. On that note, I'll be signing off, and I'll see you next time with 13th August 2024's current affairs. Thank you, everyone.